Hello, beautiful people, and welcome, to a 2025 account overview of my Genshin account. I haven't done a video like this in pretty much like a year now, and obviously a lot can change on an account in a year. So I figured, you know what? I might as well do a video where I go over my account, what I have, the teams I'm playing a lot, what my artifacts look like, all that good stuff. So let's just get right into it. First things first, we can take a look at the characters I've skipped and gotten since the last time I did a video like this, which was February 1st, 2023. I recorded this after Wanderer release, so that was before Rythm and Yaya came out. So let's talk about the characters I've gotten and skipped since then. Yaya I got, because obviously I got all the 4 stars. I think I picked her from Lantern right at the time. I skipped Rythm. The reason why I skipped Rythm is because Rythm doesn't really have teams that are significantly different from the teams you can do without him. You can play him in Quicken teams, but honestly, in my eyes, the Rythm Quicken teams don't actually feel that different to play than the Electro Carry Quicken teams. And then in his Hyper Bloom or Quick Bloom teams, you could just be playing Nahida Hyper Bloom teams instead, or Electro Carries in Quick Bloom teams. Because of that, he doesn't really open a lot of new team building options, and that's just not really what I'm looking for in a character. Like, strength doesn't really matter that much compared to fun. Now, some characters can be fun because they're strong, but I don't think that's the case for Rythm. Like, also, another reason why I don't like Rythm is because his knees are so low. Like, he has, like, the longest thighs and the shortest ankles I've ever seen. Like, what's going on with this? His bone structure is wrong. Next was Daya. And I got Daya. I actually went for Daya on the limited banner because I thought her kit was really cool. And yeah, she was awful at the time. She got better recently with a few Natlan characters having teams that can slot her in as a defensive option. Mika I only got pretty recently. Kaveh, Kaveh is what it is. Baiju, I didn't go for him initially because there wasn't that much of a reason to use him over Yao Yao in a lot of teams at the time. But then Furina came out, and Baiju's lower field time requirements to get a lot of healing started mattering a lot more. And so I went for him on a rerun. Aurora, I didn't end up getting until recently, and I don't use her very much. Lynette was yeah. I also don't use Lynette very much. Linny, the reason I went for Linny was just because I didn't want to play a ton of 4.0 in Fontaine without a new character. I didn't want to play Hyper Bloom while exploring Fontaine, and so that's like the main reason I went for Linny. That and the fact that Lynette was on his banner, and that's 2 new characters. I don't really use him very much. I mean, I ended up getting... yeah, it is what it is. Neuvillette, obviously, strong character. Getting him on my account made Abyss Clears a lot more brain dead. Risley, I skipped. I still don't have a single cryo carry. I didn't really feel like getting him. I actually kind of like Risley as a character, not as a unit, but I really disliked his kit on release. It was pretty much a copy-paste, almost one-for-one of a Wanderer, right? His skill did pretty much the exact same thing, and his burst did pretty much the exact same thing. And on top of that, he's a character that, like, feels cringe to play. Charlotte I got, but whatever. Furina, I ended up getting because, obviously, Furina helps a lot of different teams, and she's a fairly strong character. But honestly, as time passes, I find myself playing Furina less and less. The carries that are good with Furina are carries I play generally less often. I still obviously play her with Neuvillette, but I don't particularly like playing Neuvillette. I play him when I want to turn my brain off, but I don't think his teams, especially his teams with Furina, I don't think they're very fun to play. And a lot of the characters that I do play and that I do enjoy playing tend to not do all that well with Furina, right? I really like playing Arlecchino. I like playing Maoika. I like playing Gaming. Gaming has some Furina teams, but the Citlali teams are nicer. But yeah, most of the teams that I play often don't really like Furina, and so I really find myself not playing her all that often anymore. Navia, I think I tried going for her and lost 50-50 and then reconsidered. Navia's the sort of character that, like, I enjoy playing, but not so much that I'd feel the need to have her on my account. Chevreuse is a good character. I still don't love her design philosophy, and I still really dislike 4 stars that have a very strong C6, but she's strong enough that you can kind of just ignore that, so it is what it is. Gumming is one of my favorite characters to play. He's really fun, and he's got like probably the nicest looking animation of any character in Genshin. I really love all of his animations, his idle animations, his attack animations, just everything. Yeah, the only thing that gives him competition is a Citlali plunge attack. But you don't use it, so it doesn't really matter. If Citlali's plunge attack was actually part of her kit in a way where you used her in normal gameplay, maybe I'd say I prefer Citlali. Anyways, Gumming is a character that is very reliant on his constellations to be good. His C6 is like a really big deal. I got his C6 relatively recently, but since I got his C6, I play him a lot more often. Xianyun is a character that I play less and less. Xianyun is still part of my best Gumming team and Chao team, but the Xianyun Gumming teams feel worse to play, even if they are better, because Xianyun setups can be cringe. And the Xiao teams have been kind of getting targeted in a lot of recent abysses, and they've just been ass. And I really don't play Hu Tao anymore, which is really funny because Hu Tao is my best built character on my account by honestly a decent amount. It's a consequence of farming pretty much exclusively the Maréchaussée domain for like a really long time. My 2 best built characters are my Hu Tao and my Neuvillette. But even then, she still doesn't feel too great to play. Chiori, I ended up skipping, honestly, mainly because of her animation, or I guess lack thereof, on her dolls. The dolls just standing there and T-posing to deal damage made me dislike Chiori so much. Arlecchino. So Arlecchino is one of my favorite characters. She's probably the character I've played the most since her release. And outside of supports, like if you're just looking at carries, she might actually be the carry I've played the most since 1.0. Even if she only came out in, what, 4.4? 4.5? I think her kit design is fairly interesting, and her gameplay is fun. We pretend that Arlecchino's story quest didn't happen. Sethos I got relatively recently. I don't really enjoy playing him that much, so I barely do. Chloride, Chloride is a character that really disappointed me. I thought kit design-wise, she was really cool, and I'm a TF enjoyer, so characters that can use TF are nice. But she ended up feeling really boring to play. Her gameplay loop is just too straightforward, I guess, and it didn't feel interactive enough. So I don't play her too much. I still play her somewhat fairly often because people like Chlorine, so they always ask me to play it in chat. Sijuin, I skipped because it's Sijuin. Emily, I got mainly because I was kind of expecting Hoyo to release characters that are reliant on her afterwards, and that kind of did end up happening. Kachina is still level 20, I don't use her at all. Okay, Molani, boy. Molani is probably the strongest character that I hate playing. I don't think there's a single Molani team that I actually enjoy playing. God, I hate her.
Let's ride!
That was awful. Did my thing just fall off? There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong when you play Molani, and honestly, in practice, it often does. So I don't really end up playing her very often. I think she's a character that's fairly fun design-wise. I really hope they make the auto-targeting for her better eventually. That's the sort of stuff they could actually change. Kanich was a character that I was really looking forward to. I expected him to be really fun to play, and then he kind of just wasn't. It's not that he's not fun to play at all. It's just, he's a lot less fun to play than I hoped. Chilonin is just very strong, so she enables a lot of teams. Or not enables, but she improves a lot of teams. Auron! I think if Auron didn't come out, I might have skipped Chaska. Although Chaska is a really cool character. I think Chaska's the most interesting design for an animal character they've made. And I mean, that's something that's like kind of been consistent in Natlan. Their character designs in terms of kit has been so good since the start of Natlan. That's why I went for all the 5 stars so far. They all have really interesting designs in one way or another. Moani's ability to effectively do more attacks when there's multiple enemies because she can stack her chomp faster, as well as the fact that she's the first real forward vape carry, are just really cool. Kanich throwing himself all around the abyss floor is like really fun. Shilodin's team building changing the way her kit functions, even if it's pretty awful, is interesting. Like, if you don't look at the numbers, the way she can effectively start functioning differently based on what units you have on your team is really interesting. Chaska being an animal unit whose main source of damage is non-animo damage is really cool. Sidlali being a proper melt support, the first real proper melt support, is nice. And then Mawika's interactions with Fighting Spirit, even if they're cringe from a hey, this is a gacha game and a lot of people don't have the good Natlan characters perspective, are cool design-wise. And more importantly, the way that her optimal combo changes based on the application that you have is really cool. The fact that she has multiple different optimal combos depending on the team. But yeah, that's the main reason why Mawika is so fun to me, is like all the bullshit that goes on into her combos. And then obviously recently I got Lanyan. Lanyan recontextualizes Zhongli's strengths so much to me. Like, her existing makes Zhongli so much less appealing as a unit now. I don't think I'll play much Zhongli anymore. Anyways, when it comes to 5-star weapons, I don't think there's been any change. I think I got 1 Lost Prayer Refine. No, sorry, I got 2 Lost Prayer Refines on a Skyward Spine, and that's it. And oh yeah, I got an additional 5 sword. That's the real big fucking deal. I still only have 2. Hopefully I'll get a 3rd one eventually. I rarely need 4, but I often do need 3. And now I guess we can take a look at my builds on these characters. So a lot of the characters that I had at the time of my last account showcase, their builds haven't really changed. The characters whose build have changed are mainly the Fontaine characters, because I kept farming that initial save for a pretty long time. And some of the, I mean, obviously the characters with artifact sets that came out afterwards. So let's show a few of them, starting with my Neuvillette build. My Neuvillette build is my second highest on Akasha. The Akasha system website has a database of basically build rankings of basically how good is your build compared to the other people that are in that database. And the characters that have the highest rated builds are my Marie-José Hutal build, that's 0.7%, top 0.7%. My Neuvillette build, that's top 1.3%. And my Furina build, that's top 2%. Those are like the main 3 that matter. But yeah. So here's my Neuvillette build. I go off-piece on the flower because I have a pretty strong onset goblet. This is an 8-liner, right? So 3 rolls of crit damage, 3 rolls of crit rate, 2 rolls of HP. Nice from flower. Can't be that much better. This is a 7-roll feather. This is probably my best artifact on him. It's a 7-roll sands. But I also have a 6-roll goblet. It's an HP goblet rather than a hydro goblet. But with Furina, that tends to be relatively similar. My circlet is only 5 rolls. And some of those rolls are ER, which doesn't help that much. But I also have some flat HP. But yeah, so this is... He's a tiny little bit overcapped on crit. But I'm okay with that. I don't really mind. So yeah, this is a little bit over 230 CV in artifacts with a bunch of HP. Next, we can talk about my Furina build. And I have a few different Furina builds I can use. My Sands is like solid. I can go for HP or ER. My Goblet is like not that good, but also not that bad because a lot of ER is useful. My Circlet is actually pretty good. This doesn't look that great, but as it turns out, 20% ER is a lot of ER. And it helps my ER requirements a lot. This is a 7-roll circlet. It's actually pretty damn good. I have a lot of ER in my feather as well. This is an off-piece, but pretty good one. And I have a lot of ER in my flower. I have a lot of ER in my substats, right? If you look at just the substats ER. 17 here, another 17 here, so 34. Another 17 here, so 51. And then another 20, so 72. And then plus ER sands here, if I want. Or I can also go for an HP Sands with ER subs, like this one with 13 ER. So I can effectively be using a build, no ER Sands, but 230 ER on Festering, or even higher if I go Favonius, right? 246 on HP Sands. Yeah, the reality is that when it comes to Furina, I think a lot of people underestimate the value of ER. When I watch other people play, right? When I watch other streamers that are a little bit less meta-focused, and I watch their gameplay, I notice very often that Furina doesn't have her burst when they swap into her, so they have to wait. And that's a consequence of them not building enough ER. And the amount of damage that you lose if you waste a bit of ER instead of getting damage stats isn't that high, but the amount of damage that you lose if you have to wait for 5 seconds to get her burst back is real bad. But yeah, personally, I'm really happy with my Furina build. But yeah, there's also the issue of very often you kill enemies before your rotation is over, and because Furina's particle generation happens over a long period of time, then if you kill enemies before you get some of your particles back, even if you're supposed to have enough ER, you'll start the next chamber without your burst. That's why I tend to really like having Furina on more ER than I actually need. Next up, we can take a look at the Arlecchino build. I'm still not on Whimsy. The main reason why I'm not on Whimsy is because I just really don't want to farm the domain, and my Glad is pretty good. My Glad is not great, though. Alright, if you look at the Akato leaderboards, my Arlecchino is top 5%, which isn't bad, but it's also not amazing. And in the teams where I actually play her, like top 7% instead. What really carries my Arlecchino build is this shit. This is an insane goblet. This is a 9-roller goblet with a lot of high or mid-high rolls. 830 roll value. It rolled more into attack than crit, so it could be better, I guess, but I'm not gonna complain about something like this. My Glad pieces are not outstanding, but they're also not bad. My best Glad piece is probably this, actually. A nice little 6.5 roll Berklet. The rest is kind of just okay. I guess we can take a look at the Gumming build. He's on 4 Crimson Witch. The reason why I have him on 4 Crimson Witch instead of Maréchaussée is because I don't want to share my Maréchaussée pieces all the time, and I don't have that many Maréchaussée pieces that don't give a lot of crit rate, and it's hard to play Gumming, or to get Gumming on a build that doesn't overcap crit because of the crit he gets from his C6. But anyways, this is a solid 8-roll flower. I have an 8-roll feather, also pretty pog. This is only a 5-roller, I think. And on top of that, it's an attack sense instead of an EM sense. The main reason why is that is just because I don't want to strongbox too much more, and I'm okay with that. Like, it's good enough.
The next day.
This is gonna be the last one, and if I don't get one, I'll craft one. Look at this crit rate in this ER. Holy easy flat shot. This is so free. This is so free! This is so good! Yes! Let's go! 6-roll goblet, and finally we've got a nice, okay-ish 5-roll circlet. I can also use this one if I care more about just the actual damage numbers, because it's got EM and more crit damage, but the ER is really comfortable. His overall ER is 140, which is generally gonna be solid. I mean, I guess there's still the characters that I showed in my last account showcase, but that have builds that are worth mentioning. There's my pretty insane 1072 EM Raiden on flop. I spent a decent amount of time on the flop domain to get this. I did this last account showcase right after Wanderer came out. So that was right after the flop domain came out. So I guess this build did get improvements since the last video. So obviously when it comes to Hyper Bloom Electro character builds, especially Raiden, who's no burst reliant whatsoever, the only stat that matters is EM, which means that your Circlet, Goblet, and Sands stats don't really matter. All that matters is that they have EM on them, on the main stat. What does matter is the Flower and Feather. So I ended up getting a 5-roll EM feather. They're low rolls, unfortunately. Like, this looks like a 4-roller, not a 5-roller, but it's still pretty solid. And more importantly, my off piece, which is a 124 EM gilded flower. This is real good. This is hard to get. In order to get a piece with at least 120 EM, obviously first it needs to be a feather, which is 1 out of 5. Then it needs to be a 4-liner rather than a 3-liner, which if you're farming from domains is a 1 out of 3. Then it needs to have EM, which is 43%, and then it needs to roll into EM 5 times in a row, which is 1 out of 4 to the power of 5, which means that 1 out of 35,000 artifacts is gonna be a flower with 120 or more EM. I guess you'd be just as happy to see a flower as you'd be to see a feather. So instead of 1 out of 5, you can say 2 out of 5, and it's only 18,000 instead. But still, this is like probably the artifacts are the happiest to have. And then on top of that, a lot of people won't level every 4-liner with EM on them. I wouldn't level every 4-liner with EM on them. Like, if I see a piece like this, I'm not like, oh my god, that's my 120 EM flower. I'm so happy. I'm gonna level this. Like, no, this is getting bothered. And then it's on Gilded, which is a set that actually cares about EM. Yeah, I guess I need to talk about the talent levels as well. My Arlecchino is talent 10, 8, 6. The 8, 6 doesn't really matter. All that matters is this being 10. If I could go back in time, I'd give her the same treatment that I gave Neuvillette, which is a 10-1-1 treatment. My Furina is 1-10-10. 10-10. Oppa. My Dea is triple crowned. My Hu Tao is triple crowned. I still haven't crowned my Singto. One day, perhaps. My Mualani is crowned. Shows Sino talents. I don't want to talk about it, okay? I shouldn't have crowned Sino. I regret it. My Kanich is like laughably low talents. He's 1-8-1. I just don't play him enough to really care. My Raiden, important, is 1-10-8, as she should be. Crown skill because I never use her burst. Yeah, we can also talk about our builds. A lot of my Natlan character builds are kind of ass. I've been getting really unlucky on the Obsidian set. I've been getting like fine RNG on Sands and Circlets, but I've been getting really bad RNG on Flower and Feather. So on a lot of my characters, I literally have more useful stats on my Sands and Circlets than I do on my Flowers and Feathers, which makes my build on those Natlan characters generally pretty bad. My strongest is my Mawika, top 10%, but like that's kind of fake because that's top 10% for a team that I don't play, right? On the team I actually do play, she's top 13%. My Emily, I have a burning set for her, but I don't use it because I use Emily in teams where I want her on Deepwood relatively often, and I really can't be bothered changing my artifacts around all the time. And on top of that, I actually have some pretty good Deepwood pieces. This is my off piece, it's a 9 roller. This is on set, what, 7? Also on set, 7. This one's just okay, it's only 3. And this one's pretty good. My Seat Lolly build has some pieces that will make you jealous, and then some pieces that are garbage. So we have like utter garbage like this, but we also have insane pieces like this insane 9 roller flower. And yeah, this is kind of whatever, this is kind of whatever, this is kind of whatever, and this is kind of whatever. But yeah, overall, my builds are like honestly pretty average. I have a few characters with very strong builds, right? Mainly my Hu Tao, Neuvillette, Furina. I have characters with just okay builds, like my Arlecchino, my Fischl, and the rest of my characters tend to have builds that are a little below average. Reason for that being, I don't buy the battle pass, so I have the same amount of resources as every other free-to-play player, but I go for most characters and I try to level all of the characters I play to 90. All right, as you can see, I have quite a few characters level 90. I have a full page of 5 stars at level 90, and then almost a full page of 4 stars as well. I'm like 4 characters away from having 2 full pages in the Abyss character selection screen of level 90 characters, and all of these characters have their talents leveled up to what they need to do their job properly. Some of them don't have leveled talents, like my Chevreuse, because she doesn't need talent levels to do her job. But the characters that do need talent levels to do their job have their talents leveled. And then there's also some exceptions like this. My triple crown Sucrose, my goat. And now we can start talking about the teams that I play the most. Like I mentioned earlier, Arlecchino is the character that I play like the most often, but I really don't like Vape Arlecchino. The only Vape Arlecchino team that I actually play sometimes is the one with Candace. But generally, what I play with Arlecchino is either Monopyro, Chevreuse, or Melt. Ideally, I always put Bennett on the team, but if Bennett's not available, then I generally just do Chevreuse or Xiangling. But outside of that, we have Bennett. And then it's either a Monopyro thing, which now would probably use Chilonen plus Lanyan, or Lanyan plus Xiangling. Or I'd play a Melt team with Citlali plus either Chilonen or Sucrose. I could play Kazuha, but I like Sucrose more. Can also play some double cryo teams, but I don't really like them too much. And finally, the Chevreuse teams, where I use Chevreuse plus Official. Nowadays, this is probably the team I play the most often, because obviously, right, if my Bennett's needed on the other side, I can have Xiangling here instead. And, well, ever since Mawika came out, I play a lot of Mawika, and Mawika really wants Citlali, prevents me from doing the best Melt teams. You can still do Melt Arlecchino with Kea, and I did a decent amount of that before Citlali came out, but it feels so much stronger with Citlali that after you've gone to Citlali, Kea feels kind of whatever. Yeah, my Kea is C6. I don't think he's triple crown, I think he's just double crown. Oh, he is triple crown. Other teams that I play fairly often. Nowadays, I play a decent amount of Gaming, with Gaming, Bennett, Citlali, and then the last slot either being Chilonen, another cryo like Diona or Xianyun. I don't really like the other animal characters outside of Xianyun with Gumming because you don't have good enough VV uptime for them to be all that great, right? If you compare to Xilonen will have much better uptime, and Xianyun is the only one that gives enough of a buff outside of Vivi that she's still good. This is like definitely the strongest Gumming team, but over extended rotations and when there's multi-wave content, I tend to prefer playing it with Xilonen. Obviously, I also play a good amount of Maoika, either in Melty with Citlali, where then the last slot is either Xilonen or Sucrose, mostly. I could also use Kazuha, but Sucrose is just better, so there's no reason to. Maoika doesn't tend to need Kazuha's better grouping, because her AoE is big enough that it doesn't really matter. But I also play Vape teams. When it comes to Maoika Vape teams, I really don't like the Furina teams. Mainly because, one, you don't get that much fanfare, and two, it kind of feels bad to play Maoika teams that are locked into 20+ second rotations. And then on top of that, getting your Pyro Cinder City proc is a lot harder with Furina. And so I really like the Yelan version a lot more, right? Yelan longest cooldown is 18 seconds instead of 20, which means that your rotations are gonna be at least 18 seconds, but Maoika's burst is also 18 seconds, so it doesn't extend your rotations. The only annoying part about this is that Yelan's ER requirements in a team like this are wildly high, which is why this is the build she's usually on. 67% crit damage, Yelan. It's because I have Elegy, and her ER requirements with Elegy are a lot higher than they are with Fav, because you don't get the Fav proc, and Elegy gives less ER than Fav does. And they're already pretty damn high in those solo Hydro teams, where you only use 1 E per rotation. And yeah, 300 ER is pretty much what I need not for it not to feel like shit. And the only pieces that give me this much ER are pieces that are a lot more weight towards crit rates instead of crit damage. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Yeah, we actually cap the emblem 4-piece. Which is crazy. But yeah, the reality is that, like, even if my build was more weight towards crit damage, Yelan doesn't do that much damage in the Maoika teams because of how wildly high her ER requirements are. And that's mainly due to Maoika just being too strong. Her personal damage is so high that your Yelan's damage becomes kind of insignificant in comparison. So I'll gladly sacrifice a bit of damage for comfort. Other teams I play often, obviously I'll play Neuvillette teams pretty often with like mix and match with Anemo and Xilonen or Zhongli. Now, you can also use Citlali. Obviously though, this Abyss is really not great for Neuvillette, so I haven't played him in a little bit. I still play Double Hydro Hyper Bloom fairly often. It's still one of my good teams. One of the teams that I liked for a pretty decent amount of time was this. People, I think, tend to overestimate the value of getting Neuvillette's second stack and underestimate the value of Georesonance. The reality is that you really don't get that much less damage with this than you do with this, assuming enemies don't hit you with Pyro, as if they hit you with Pyro, I can cheat out an additional stack. But yeah, and then on top of that, these teams are a lot more chill to play, so I actually tend to like this a bit more. But now with Lanyan's release, there's just no real reason to use Zhongli anymore here. So I'd rather just use Lanyan. Other than that, I play Chlorinde Overload fairly often, mainly with this team or this team. I don't really play much National anymore, whether it be International or Sucrose National, because I like playing both Arlecchino and Maoika quite a bit, and both of those characters really like having Bennett, and so that kind of reduces my options for National. I do still play this team sometimes, and it's still a pretty solid team. I'm excited to play it a little bit more in the next Abyss, which is going to have a 600% swirl damage bonus on the ley line. That's going to be fun. But yeah, I still also play Force only teams once in a while. I try to do an Abyss clear with Force only teams every Abyss. I guess I can talk about the non-combat related stuff on my account. Sumeru Desert really burnt me out on Genshin Exploration. I really liked Sumeru Forest. I didn't finish the exploration on it, but I got most of it done. The rest is just like going back to the region and using the compass. But Desert was not fun for me, and it really burnt me out of the exploration. And that made me really not want to do much more exploration, since I ended up not doing a decent amount of the Fontaine exploration. Sumeru exploration, I did an okay-ish amount, just so I could get the reputation rewards, but I haven't really done the newer parts. I'll get around to them eventually. My quest log is getting more and more full. I have quite a few quests I haven't done. Oh boy. Yeah. The main reason why I don't do that much quest is because quests aren't really great stream content, and I do not play Genshin off stream. And like that's something I've noticed, is that people don't tend to like seeing me do the Genshin quests as much as they like seeing me do Abyss or stuff like that. And a decent portion of the reason why is because I don't think it's as fun, and I think it shows. And watching someone who's bored doesn't tend to be all that entertaining. I still do the Archon quests every patch, and I actually focus on them properly, and I think it's pretty decent stream content, but I don't enjoy Genshin's writing enough to really have the willpower to do that for every single quest. Yeah, hangout events, I still haven't done any of them. I did Bennett's hangout, and then I literally haven't done a single other one. I also haven't touched my teapot since I maxed out the Adeptal energy or whatever. I try to go there every week to claim my free fragile resin, but I often forget. I still haven't unlocked fishing, and I'm proud of it. I still have the exploding population event. Oh yeah, there's also this. I ended up getting this Cantus on the highest difficulty on every single song except this one. This one I'm not good enough to get this Cantus on. Let's try it again, dude. That was better. Let's go! Let's go! I take it back! Discantus is free and easy on every single song in here. But yeah, so I got Discantus on all of them. That's cool, I guess. What else is like not combat related progress? Oh yeah, I'm currently sitting on 44,000 primos and 943 star glitter. Another 100 wishes. Yeah, I started Natlan at 100k, so yeah. But yeah, future plans for the account. I'm gonna stick to not getting signature weapons or constellations on limited characters, and I'm just gonna keep going for whatever characters are interesting. I'm not gonna go for Yume Mizuki. I might end up getting her eventually, and if I do get her, I'll build her for sure, but I'm not gonna go on her banner. But yeah, that pretty much does it for this account showcase. So I hope you enjoyed. I guess you didn't learn a thing or two in this one, because it wasn't really a teaching video. But I hope you enjoyed the showcase, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, YouTube.